Hello, one and all. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing this fine day? I can't say I feel a heck of a lot better about that Steeler game one day removed, but I was pretty wound up when I recorded it last night, and that was, again, right after it ended, and didn't do a ton of, it was middle of the night, didn't have a lot of opportunity to do a ton of other research, but I've done a lot of research since, and let's dig right in. As we often do for pod number 2 of the week, we're going to start with snap counts. One Dallas snap count thing I wanted to mention was when Tyler Guyton got hurt. He had left after 23 snaps out of a possible 76. So TJ Bass replaced him indirectly. He came in at left guard. Smith went from left guard to left tackle. And Smith is a stud. I told you before, they have the best guards in the league. But I also believe Smith at left tackle is better than Guyton at left tackle. But Bass was kind of bad at left guard. So, potato. I don't know if it was better or worse for the Cowboys, I guess is my point. But it didn't hurt them all that bad. All right, Steelers offensive snap counts. 58 possible. The entire starting offensive line played every snap. Fields missed 2. Here's where it gets a little hairy. Van Jefferson paced the skill guys with 47. Freiermuth with 46. Austin with 44. Najee with 43. George Pickens with 34. 34 out of a possible 58 snaps. Come back to that. Darnell Washington with 30, like that. And then we fill in with 13 for Miller and Hayward, 11 for Shampklin. Brandon Johnson was out there for 5, Ward for 3, Kyle Allen for 2, Spencer Anderson for 1 in a short yardage type situation. Defense had a possible 76 snaps. Patrick Queen's the only one that played every snap. Joey Porter Jr. missed 1. Minka and Jackson missed 2 each. Watt only missed 6, which is a lot to ask of him, and it's probably going to be the norm if we're going to have a lot of injuries opposite him. Anyway, Elliott played 65. Bishop played 57, mostly poorly. Hayward played 55. Benton played 45. Wilson 44. Herbig 41. Moon 28, also mostly poorly. Adams 27. Roberts 21. KZ 17. Ogunjobi 15. That's a really low number for him. I'm curious what's going on with him. I didn't think he had a good game either. Loudermilk played 14. Lowry 13. Leal 12. Edmonds 11. Killebrew and Pierre each 1. Nothing super startling there. I need to get to the bottom of the Ogunjobi stuff. He was on the injured list, and he did not play particularly well in this game. So there's that. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the NFL to college, BetOnline has every stat, even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to Online Casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE, all caps, BLEAV, and get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. As usual, a whole bunch of notes. Sort of organized, sort of not. Sort of is when I had something to jot down, throw it on here. Created 3 turnovers and you blocked a field goal and you lost. Shouldn't happen. It wasn't like you had 4 turnovers and got a punt blocked. So that in itself is alarming. And if it hadn't happened, would the Steelers have lost this game by 20? Potentially. Playmakers on offense. I think they're really lacking right now. I'm going to say they have 1.5 consistent playmakers on offense. Pickens is 1. More on him later. Small snap count. And I'm going to say Fields is the other. Maybe Freiermuth's half a playmaker too. They need more playmakers. And I'm really hoping to get Warren, even Patterson, maybe Roman Wilson involved just to see what they can do. And boy, those backs would be useful. I thought this was a poor running back game for the Steelers. I do like the idea of getting Najee out in space in the flats and making corners tackle him. That's no fun. But in terms of getting him schemed up between the tackles with run plays that fit his skill set, they're not doing it well. He's not making people miss. I think I called him a jag yesterday, just a guy. He's starting to really feel that way. The Steelers made Rico Dowdell, who maybe many of you had never heard of if you don't play fantasy football, look really good yesterday. And that's concerning. But I do want to tell you, he doesn't stink. I mean, he is by far the Cowboys' best back. Dalvin Cook's shot, Zeke is shot. Dowdell would be a useful Steeler. You know, he'd be helpful on any team. But they made him look probably better than he is, and that's not great. And along those lines, the Cowboys had been averaging only 21 rushing attempts per game over their first 4 weeks. That's a pretty big body of work. Full month, 21 rushing attempts per game. They were able to run the ball 31 times against the Steelers. I mean, that's 10 more than their average, as you figured out, I'm sure. And they allowed them to, you know. I think that's the key. Okay, let's flip to the other side of the ball. The Steelers made an effort to take Ozi Odighizuwa. He's someone we didn't talk about enough leading up to this game. He's a good penetrating defensive tackle, 3-technique type guy, disruptive. They double teamed him on 12 of 24 pass rushes, which is a high double team rate for anyone. But a lot of it was because he's the only show in town. They wouldn't have done that as much if Lawrence and Parsons were there. And Odighizuwa only generated 2 pressures on those 12 pass rushes, which he was doubled. But on those same pass rushes, his teammates generated another 5. So they had a really good pressure rate as a team when Odighizuwa was doubled as opposed to when he wasn't. So when they didn't double Odighizuwa on pass rush, they got a pressure rate of 25%. But when they did double him, it was 58%. So hindsight, maybe just leave him alone and let our guys do other stuff. You know what I mean? People don't think about that kind of stuff, but that's an interesting way of thinking about your protection schemes. Speaking of pass rush, Nick Herbig generated a team-high 5 pressures on 28 pass rushes, which is really good, despite leaving the game in the third quarter. He's now recorded 14 pressures in 2024. That's tied for most on the Steelers. Herbig, Hayward, and Watt each have 14 pressures, which I don't think is an exact science, but it tells you a lot. And that's more than his entire pressure total last year. I really hope Herbig's not out for a long stretch. Porter, been a little up and down, but I thought he had a very strong coverage day and a really nice interception. And he was targeted a career high 9 times in this game. It's amazing that he follows ones, and this is the first time he's been targeted 9 or more times. Only allowed 5 receptions for 46 yards and that interception. You'll take it. That's good stuff. He played man coverage on 11 of his 41 coverage snaps, but was only targeted 4 times in man coverage and allowed just 1 reception for 7 yards when playing man. In zone, he was targeted 5 times, allowing 4 catches for 39, including the interception, which is good too, but he played man coverage and let up 1 catch for 7 yards. They've been playing a lot more zone than you think, by the way. Along those lines, when you're playing zone coverage, your secondary needs to communicate really, really well. They haven't. I mean, it's clear that they have had poor secondary communication. And this happens to all teams. And a lot of it's because these coordinators are so good at putting you in a bind. But that absolutely needs to get cleaned up. Not only was the defense bad in third down conversion rate, but they also allowed a lot of big plays on third downs, 25-yard gains, a lot of chunk passing plays were made by Prescott on third downs. And you just can't rely on splash on defense. I mean, that's kind of what this defense was yesterday, was bend, kind of get broken, make a splash play, and save your butt. It's a hard way to live, man. I mentioned Ogunjobi. I'm wondering if it's injury related. His snap count was low, but I thought he was a non-impact player and was a negative. And Loudermilk often is and was again. And at some points, Loudermilk had to kind of play an edge position and more of a four-man front when they got all banged up at outside linebacker. That's not the answer to me. That's just to get you out of the game type of thing. Steelers offense had 7 possessions in this game in which it recorded 2 or fewer first downs. Ouch. That's either 3 and out or 2 first downs, 1 first down, punt. That's 7 possessions. Dak Prescott was super efficient on quick passes. He was 16 of 19 for 151 yards when they came out in 2.5 seconds or less. He was 12 of 22 on 2.5 seconds or more for 197 yards, including both his touchdowns and interceptions. All 4 of Dak's interceptions this season have come on pass attempts over 2.5 seconds to throw after he threw 3 interceptions on such attempts last year. Same is true for Fields, though. I mean, get it out quick, be efficient. That's what this league's about right now. The Cowboys had 8 plays of 15 or more yards in the passing game. The Steelers took shots. They just missed them all. Cowboys didn't. That was a huge part of this game. Steelers blitzed 22% of the time, very low. And teams never blitz Dak because he tears it up. Dallas only blitzed 29% of the time, which is also low. But it's also showing more respect for Fields. Fields used to be the heaviest blitzed guy in the league. Now teams are backing off because he's making them pay for it a little bit. So how about this? Both of the Cowboys' touchdown drives that ended in the fourth quarter were of 15 or more plays. First one was 16 plays of 90 yards, 8.5 minutes of time of possession, that ended up with that 22-yard touchdown pass to Dowdell. 16 plays. And then the other one was 15 plays, 70 yards, about 4.5 minutes of time of possession, 4-yard touchdown pass to Tolbert to finish it. 31 plays between those 2 drives. In the fourth quarter, Dak was 7 of 11 for 77 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He had it figured out, and the defense was winded, and he took advantage. Dak had 275 passing yards, 1 interception, 1 fumbled lost in the first 3 quarters. In the fourth, he was 7 of 11 for 77 and 2 passing touchdowns. It's not apples to apples, but that's part of at least the case for a Russell Wilson. Russell's not as good as Dak. I'm not saying he is, but when those veteran guys have a defense on the ropes, they know how to finish and how to take advantage of it. Steelers have lost each of their last 2 games by 3 points after having a chance late in the fourth quarter to win both. I mean, in week 4 at Indy, they got the ball down 3 with 2:39 remaining, lost after a turnover on downs. Week 4, they took a 4-point lead with 4:56 remaining and lost after a touchdown with 20 seconds left on the clock. They're both losses, but you're right in it on the end on both those. This was their season low for offensive total yards, just 226. Pittsburgh was outgained by 219 total yards. Yes, that's a ton, but to put it in perspective, that's the worst discrepancy in a Steeler home game since week 16 of 1998, 219 yards more by Dallas. Steelers are averaging 18.4 points per game in 2024. That is the lowest amongst all teams that are over 500. Talked about Fields being much more efficient, 2.5 or less in terms of time to throw. His average time to throw in this game was 3.32, way too high. And his completion percentage, which has been great, was 55% in this game. Ugh. Fields was 0 for 6 on 20-plus yard attempts. Remember, I told you they took chances. They threw one-on-one balls down the field, didn't complete any of them. From the same distance, Dak was 4 of 6 for 131. It's a huge difference. A huge difference. And then you mix in the Steelers had 0 10-yard runs or more. Not enough. No explosives. Average yards per drive. Steelers only put up 21.8. Dallas was at 43.5. Red zone plays. Steelers snapped the ball in the red zone 4 times. Dallas did 12. Despite playing without Parsons and Lawrence, and we talked about the blitz rates earlier, Cowboys still had a higher pressure rate, 35.5, than the Steelers at 26.7. That's disheartening. All right, here's the picking stuff. And I think a lot of this is disciplinarian, and you can think however you want on that, and sending a message to the team, and one player is not bigger than the rest of the team, but then maybe you should have sat him down, period, or I had mixed feelings about that, and it's hard to comment not being there. But however, over the first 4 weeks, Pickens played 74 out of 93 snaps when the Steelers had 2 wide receivers on the field. Whatever else was out there, when you only had 2 wide receivers on the field, 74 of 93, which is a little low, but it's understandable. These guys take breaks after running go routes, etc. In this game, they snapped the ball with 2 wide receivers on the field 19 times, and he was out there once for that. Come on, man. I mean, I paused there on purpose. So it was either Austin or Miller with Jefferson. I mean, percentage of team pass plays, Austin and Jefferson were out there 93.5% of the pass plays. Pickens was out there for 77. Okay, if you're going to send the message and you're a bad boy and we don't like all the stuff you do and you're selfish and yada, yada. But man, any defensive coordinator in the world would love to play 93% of their pass plays with Jefferson and Austin on the field. Come on. Along those lines, Tolbert did play more snaps than Lamb for the Cowboys. Not looking too much into that, though. It wasn't anything like this discrepancy. The Steelers folks have started 4 different offensive line combinations in their 5 games this season. That's brutal. And 4 Steelers offensive linemen have made their first career start thus far this year. That's a root of the problem. Third down. Najee only played 1 third down in this game, and Shampklin played 6. Now, I know it's only 6 snaps, but I sure wish that was Warren. I'm really excited for Warren to come back. Although he only played 1 third down snap, he did run a route on 65% of Pittsburgh's dropbacks against Dallas. That was his season high, and he's been over 60% in each of the past 2 games after being around 40% for the first couple games as well as his career. So if they're dropping back and 2/3 of the time he's going out on a route, I like that. That's been effective. That's been the best part of Najee's game. I know sometimes EPA per play can get lost on you guys, but really it is just how many points do you, on average doing what you do, how many points do you put on the scoreboard per play? So it's going to be very fractions of numbers. But to give you some idea, on 3rd and 4th down, Dallas's offense created what was the equivalent of 0.68 points, where the Steelers created negative 0.36 points. And success rate on third and fourth down, Dallas was at 61% versus 33% for the Steelers. Look where these games are won and lost. Third and fourth down was a key part of this. All right. I did think it was a good special teams night overall. Good night for Waitman. I'm a believer. Blocked a field goal. Killebrew also was awesome in that punt blitz pickup. So things that are unordinary, that kind of stuff was big. Waitman, I think, is going to be fine, if not better. One player that really stood out for Dallas, and I'm almost wrapping up here, but Linval Joseph, I'm sure you saw him take Isaac Seumalo and just dump him on his butt. But he was a force in the middle of the Dallas defense and was a full-grown man, nose tackle, anvil to move. Overall, though, I didn't think the interior offensive line for the Steelers played bad, but Linval Joseph was a problem. I don't think they got as much as they usually do in the run game from Jones and Washington, securing the edges against backups. That was a problem, especially in like these longer stretch plays. But yeah, I mean, there's no but to it. That's not great. I was on a show today with Wolf and Starks and Rob King, and focusing on Wolf and Starks, 2-0 linemen. And they kept harping on, and I think they're 100% right. I'd love to see, and I agree with them, more three-point stance. Let's get back into getting into a three-point stance, coming off the ball on the rise, as opposed to starting with high pads. You know, you're not going to ever move Linval Joseph if you don't get a leverage advantage now. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm going to pay more and more attention to, but I couldn't agree more. All right, everyone. That's a wrap. Fun one today. Take care.